Education, we're told, it's humanity's grandest promise, the foundation of our future, the ladder out of ignorance. But if we look closely, we see a system obsessed with memorization, not understanding. We praise students for remembering, not for thinking. We build schools to produce results, not minds. The system rewards obedience disguised as intelligence. It teaches repetition, not reflection. And so, generation after generation, we produce students who can pass exams but fail to question the world around them. School efficiency models, like the CIPO framework or Edmonds Five-Factor Model, promise to measure how schools turn resources into results. They talk about context, input, process, and output. They analyze things like leadership, school, climate, expectations, and basic skills. Then you have complex econometric systems like data envelopment analysis, or D, which compare inputs like teacher hours and funding to outputs like student achievement. The goal is always efficiency. But what is achievement, really? Test scores, graduation rates. These numbers might tell us something about a system's productivity, but they tell us nothing about a student's capacity to think, to reason, to imagine. These models measure how well we've built machines, but education was meant to build minds. The true tragedy of modern education isn't in what it teaches, but in how it teaches. Schools teach memory. They rarely teach meaning. In most classrooms, students memorize formulas, definitions, and dates. They pass tests with high marks, and then, soon after, they forget almost everything they've learned. The psychologist Philip H. Winne once wrote, "Learning is building an internal representation of the external world." What he meant is that real learning happens when our minds connect new ideas to old ones, when knowledge transforms into genuine understanding. But our schools don't build internal representations, they build temporary storage. Information goes in, gets repeated on an exam, and then it evaporates. We've mistaken memorization for mastery, and the result is a generation of students who are trained to remember, but not to reason. So if schools are factories, what are they actually producing? Test takers, obedient workers. We measure intelligence by grades and progress by report cards, but these metrics don't show curiosity, resilience, or creativity at the true engines of learning. When the system prioritizes results over reasoning, we create graduates who can memorize, but cannot adapt, who can repeat, but cannot rethink. They enter the world with diplomas, but without direction. They know the what, but they have no idea about the why. Models like D promise to optimize resources for maximum output, but these outputs are just numbers on spreadsheets. The system has become efficient at being inefficient. It's become efficient at producing measurable outcomes that mean absolutely nothing in the real world. Schools celebrate rising test scores even as student engagement plummets. Governments announce improvement even as creativity and critical thinking decline. This obsession with efficiency has stripped education of its soul. The question that truly matters, are students actually learning, has been replaced with a much simpler but far less important one: are students passing? Education should not be about what can be measured, it should be about what can be understood. True education begins when students are allowed to ask, to question, to doubt. Newer frameworks like the Dynamic Model of Educational Effectiveness, or DMEE, talk about lesson structure, assessment, and feedback. But real structure should be the architecture of curiosity, where a teacher becomes a guide, not an examiner. The greatest classrooms are not those where everyone has the same answer, but those where everyone dares to ask a different question. The price of this failure is enormous. Students graduate with the illusion of knowledge, but the absence of wisdom. They know theories, but not their application. They are educated to serve systems, not to improve them. The result: a world filled with credentials, but short on creativity. Professionals who follow the rules, but rarely challenge them. Citizens who consume information, but can't discern the truth. Education was supposed to set us free. Instead, it has become a cage with very polite walls. Real learning is not memorizing, it's meaning-making. It's the mind-building, as Winne said. An internal representation of the external world. Education should teach us how to think, not what to think. It should create explorers, not record-keepers. The models can measure efficiency, but they can't measure enlightenment. Until our schools remember that learning is not the storage of facts but the transformation of understanding, education will continue to fail beautifully, systematically, efficiently. Thanks for watching. If this idea resonates with you, consider subscribing for more content that challenges the way we see the world. Stay curious.